Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing this topic. Should a data scientist learn web development? I get asked this question a lot, especially from aspiring data scientists. Tough questions usually don't have easy answers. If you've ever been interested in the field of data science, you've definitely seen this Venn diagram. And it just shows in summary the kind of skill sets that is required for a career in data science. So you need to have a good understanding of statistics, you should have good domain knowledge, and you should also have programming skills or hacking skills. Now when I see this Venn diagram, I ask myself, when you say programming skills, what level of programming skills do you mean? So do you mean just having like bare bones basic programming skills, like understanding functions, object orientation, or is it important to be able to know how to create a very basic web application? So for me, the way I look at data science is, for someone trying to come into the field, it makes sense for you to be a developer first before trying to be a data scientist. For us to fully understand this topic, we need to just take a quick look at the typical data science workflow. The first step in any data science project is problem statement development. So that is understanding the business problem. Next, you want to acquire data that will help you solve the business problem. Once you have the data, next thing you're going to do is analyze the data, explore it with your visualization and things of that nature. Then you want to create your machine learning model or your statistical model. You want to visualize the results, you want to validate the model. Usually this validation stage is usually done with the domain experts in the different fields. And last but not the least is your deployment strategy. The reason why this is very critical in a data science project is because data science is all about solving business problems with data. So any solution you're coming up with has to have an important business bottom line. It has to add something to the bottom line. However, one thing I've noticed is for most data science tutorial out there, this model deployment is usually not emphasized as much as the other phases of the data science pipeline. And deployment is not a big deal. It's pretty much, you've created this model, how do you make it accessible to everybody or to end users? And there are different methods this can be achieved. Some basic ideas of how model development can be achieved. You can deploy your machine learning model as an API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. Now this is very common. A lot of people use this approach while deploying their model. And this, you can create an API with a web framework like Flask or Django or with just pure Python. Another popular approach for model deployment is using MLflow. So model deployment using a tool like MLflow. That's actually really common. The easiest way I've seen is after you've trained your machine learning model, save it as a file and then use that file within your application. So we're still back to the question. And what is the answer to the question? Do the data scientists learn to develop apps like web applications? And the answer is it depends. It depends. The reason is the role of a data scientist is, it varies from company to company, from organization to organization. In some organizations, their data scientists do a lot of data analysis type of work. So you pull data from the database and you put it in the dashboard. And that's the end of your role in that organization. Meanwhile, some other organization, a data scientist is more like a software engineer. And one trend I've started seeing more often now is jobs that say the job title says software engineer with machine learning experience. So you can see that there's a trend moving away from just a data scientist that makes visualization and creates models in a notebook. The trend is actually moving more towards a data scientist that can create value by creating machine learning models and then take that model into a web application or build a user interface around it. So for me, what I'll say is, if you're just starting out in the field of data science, let's say pick your language, pick Python and master it very well. Learn to be a good developer first. Learn your data science fundamentals. And once you've learned your data science fundamentals, just have a very brief look at how to make a basic web application. As to make web applications, there are several tools you can use, and we're going to talk about that. So let's say you've decided you want to make a web application, or you're a busy data scientist and you want to have an idea on how to make web applications. So for me, based on my experience with web frameworks, my favorite for right now in Python ecosystem is Django. I love Django because it includes every single thing you'd need for any web application out of the box. When you compare that to Flask, or the other hand, Flask being a micro framework, Flask only gives you the bare bones you need for a web application, and any extra thing you need to import libraries to accomplish that task. When I compare both of them, Django and Flask, what I find is Flask is deceptively simple to learn. And I say deceptive because when you first start learning Flask, it's so easy because all you have to do is write a function to represent a view, very simple things like that. But when you try to build a very broad end-to-end web application in Flask, then you start finding the limitations because some of the requirements, some of the features you want in your web application would not already have a library that can do that kind of thing. So you're left to either go find the library or code it out yourself. So when I look at Django and Flask, to me, Flask is very approachable. Django has a steep learning curve. But when you wrap your mind around the Django way of doing things, it just becomes super easy. Flask, on the other hand, is easy in the beginning, but when you're trying to do complicated things, it becomes more tedious. So let's say you're a data scientist, you're busy, or you're learning to be a data scientist and you really don't have the time to look into Django or Flask. That makes sense. There are still other alternatives you can use, and this, I'll call them libraries and not web frameworks. One popular one is Streamlit, and I do have playlist on Streamlit, so just check in the description below. Streamlit is the fastest way to make user interfaces. So let's say you build a very nice model, image detection, or whatever it is. Streamlit allows you to be able to put a face or an interface to your model very easy and very quickly. Another popular option, which to me is the more matured option, is Dash by Plotly. Dash has been around for quite some time and it's an amazing tool to use as well. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve with your data product. You could go all the way and use Django, you could use Flask, you could use Dash, you could use Streamlit. It all depends on your skill level and how far are you trying to take that product. One other option which I've found to be very useful when you're trying to make a user interface for your machine learning models is Bokeh. Bokeh is a very nice library as well. What I'm just trying to say here is, when you hear web applications, there are several tools you can use to make web applications in a data science context, not learn how to make web applications as a data scientist. In conclusion, I believe every data scientist should be a developer first before trying to jump into data science, because that gives you a breadth of skills that you can use to solve problems. Another reason you might want to learn to make web applications as a data scientist is because it could actually unlock some good earning potentials for you. So let's say, for example, you build a sentiment analysis model. Maybe you can analyze Twitter data. If you have the skill set to make web applications, you can actually expose that API and charge end users for selling the information. Another reason why it'll be important to learn web applications, the field of data science is changing. The requirements that companies have is also changing. So learning to have an idea of web applications would really set you apart as a full stack data scientist. So what I mean by a full stack data scientist is a data scientist that is able to go from the problem statement all the way to a usable product. And organizations are finding that skill set very, very valuable right now. Final reason why I feel it to be important for a data scientist to learn how to make web application is because learning to create web application would allow you to move your models into a deployable environment where other people can actually make use of what you have created. Thank you very much for watching. Do check my other playlists on how to create a blog using Django and how to use Streamlit to create dashboards. Thank you.